Welcome to Politics NY with Skye. Behind the curtain, we are joined by Senator Gustavo Rivera. He is Puerto Rican and he was at Somos along with me, even though we didn't see each other. And he's also chair of the Health Committee for the state Senate. So let's dive into a conversation with him. Welcome to the show, Senator.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Skye.
Thank you. So tell us about your experience now at Somos. I know you've been a bunch of times, but what'd you think?
Well, it was obvious that people had been waiting for that conference to happen. For those folks who do not know, or maybe they do know if they watch your show, it's a legislative conference that happens every year. There's a version of it that is the cold version and then the warm version. The cold version happens up in Albany at something around March or end of March or beginning of April. And the tradition has been that immediately after the general election, then there is a version of the conference that happens in Puerto Rico. That a lot of that has to do with the fact that many of the folks who started the legislative caucus or task force that's referred to as Somos, which means we are, is started by Puerto Ricans because they were the folks that were most of the legislators when it started. So it happens down in Puerto Rico, and this was the first time that it happened since 2019. So it was pretty obvious that people wanted to have that happen. It was more crowded than I've seen in a long time. It was quite busy, both politically and policy-wise, and it was a productive meeting, a productive conference for me as well. So, and I know you enjoyed yourself because you're an extrovert and you like all the parties. I did my work and said, "Have a good one, folks. I'm going to go back to my hotel room," and so I did.
And I think that speaks to who you are, Senator, that you just were there to do your work and not run around and have people you didn't like, everyone coming and attacking you and asking questions.
It's like, listen, I've been doing this long enough that I know that there's a lot of people in this business that in this world that I get along with and I like, and there's a couple of other ones that I do not. And so it's about I know that, when I get off the plane, one of the things I do is when I get off the plane, I get a bottle of a good rum or some other brown liquor and I bring it back to my hotel room. And then at the end of the day, when I finish everything after I do it, and then I go back to my hotel room and do a little bit more work, me and my bottle of rum. And that's kind of how I do, because believe it or not, I'm an introvert. So it is the way that I recharge at the end of a day when having like 100 people coming at you, asking you things, asking for meetings, demanding things. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, I will have my cup, my little rum and just relax at the end of the night before we go on the next day. So.
I think of most politicians as extroverts. So how does an introvert, how did you get into public service?
Well, first of all, I do not consider myself a politician. I call myself a public servant. And the reason I make that distinction is because I would consider the guy who was here before me a politician. And I should mention that when I beat him in 2011, he then served 6 years in federal prison for stealing public money. But we'll get to that. Your question about public service, it is, I came to New York. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised down there. Got to New York in '98 to do a PhD in political science at the CUNY Graduate Center. You'll notice that I do not introduce myself as a doctor or a PhD, so that tells you how far I got. But I started teaching college, and then a friend of mine decided that he was going to run for office and sit for the city council, for a city council seat in Brooklyn back in 2001. And I decided to help him. And it was a disastrous campaign. We did not win it, but it was my first experience as an electoral organizer. And I kept doing that. And so I kept working in government and as an electoral organizer for a while. And my intention was to continue to do that as an operative, as somebody who got other folks elected. And I became a professional at it. And then in 2009, to make a long and complicated story very short, the coup that happened in 2009, when the Democrats were in the state Senate for a very short period of time, were a majority, then it all went up in smoke because of a couple of knuckleheads, including my predecessor, who switched the chair, the power of the Senate back to Republican hands. I decided that he had to go. And then even though I tried to look for somebody else to run against him, ultimately I found that I was the best candidate. And even though I resisted it for a while, I knew that I had to do it. So I am an introvert. So that means that at the end of the day, I come back home to relax and re-energize by myself. But I do like meeting people, particularly my constituents. So, just as long as they're not here, out there is good and here is me.
Okay. Is there anything else you want viewers, constituents, our audience to know about you?
I'm an enormous nerd. That over there is all comic books, believe it or not. That is actually a bookcase full of comic books. I am Puerto Rican by birth, but represent more Dominicans than any other state legislator in the country. And that is my faithful companion, my 70-inch television, with which I watch a lot of sci-fi and play video games. So enormous nerd, proudly so. And it's the way I keep saying, to make sure that I can do good work for the people of New York, I need to jump on there and go, hunting space monsters every now and then to be able to stay sane.
Okay, well, it was really nice to spend time with you. New York State Senator Gustavo Rivera, one of our healthcare power leaders for Schneps Media's top 100 list. Thank you so much for your time and for being part of PoliticsNY with Skye.
Take care, and thank you so much for the invitation.